While we often think about testing for dyslexia in second grade or later, or basically when we feel like we can get an accurate measure of a child's letter word identification skills, this can be detrimental to the student. When difficulties in phonics, phonemics, and basic reading skills are observed in kindergarten or first grade, a screener is highly recommended. Research has shown that it's better to identify young, at-risk children with a screener and provide early intervention or Tier 2 services so that their reading difficulties can be remediated. A study by Hall and Motes in 1999 found that early identification is critical because the earlier the intervention, the easier it is to remediate. They found that screening measures can identify at-risk students in mid-kindergarten with 85% accuracy, which is pretty good. And that if intervention is not provided before the age of 8, the probability of reading difficulties continue into high school at a 75% rate. There was another study that was completed by the National Institute of Health, and that was a longitudinal study. I think it was completed in 2004. And it found similar results, stated that early intervention is essential for this population to prevent the impact of reading difficulties on future academic success, because children do not mature out of their reading difficulties and they do not outgo reading failure or dyslexia. So when we see the indicators early on in the child's schooling, we really need to jump on it and do what we can to remediate them at that time. The NIH results also found that dyslexia is identifiable with 92% accuracy between the ages of 5.5 to 6.5, which again would be the kindergarten to first grade level. They found that reading failure caused by dyslexia is highly preventable through direct, explicit instruction in phonemic awareness. So it's really important to get ahead of these students and to offer them the services that they need to remediate the difficulties. Of the children who displayed reading problems in the first grade, they found that 74% will be poor readers in the 9th grade and into adulthood unless they do receive informed and explicit instruction on phonemic awareness. In addition to the longitudinal research by National Institute of Health as well as Hall and Motes, other researchers have also found that screening for dyslexia during the early grades is important because the critical period for brain development of literacy skills occurs between birth and 8 years of age. Predictors of reading difficulties can be assessed in young children through assessment of phonemic awareness and other phonological skills, so you don't need to wait until they actually have base, like sight word reading skills yet. You can assess them, you can assess the predictors to determine if they're going to develop dyslexia. And then you can provide the early intervention, which is effective and is going to prevent further academic as well as social emotional problems that are associated with children who have difficulty reading in school. So when we're looking at dyslexia screening instruments for young children, we need to be sure to choose those that are age appropriate. If you choose a test that measures skills above the child's current level of functioning, even if that test is normed for that age group, your results are going to be more difficult to interpret. This is just a list of areas to focus on by grade. Skill sets in each of these areas should be measurable for children, for the list for kindergarten and then for the list for first grade. And we're making an assumption here that the child has received prior appropriate instruction so that they, for the first grade children, that they have had a year of kindergarten schooling already. While we gather quantitative information through formal assessments usually, it's also important to consider qualitative information as well. And these qualitative pieces can include behavior observations, parental reports. Often there is if a child has dyslexia, you'll find that one or both parents may have had dyslexia or a reading disability, or a sibling has issues as well. Work samples are going to be needed, and we do want to document the child's educational history to be sure that there weren't any gaps in their education that could account for their inability to read.